Welcome, my non-existent viewers. It is I, your host, TV9, and this is going to be the first out of 7 list videos that I'll be making within the next week. This is going to be top 9/top 5 week. Today, I'm recording this on January 2nd. From today, January 2nd, until January 8th, this coming week, I'm going to be bing bang booming you guys with top 5s and top 9 videos. And I wanted to start this list by doing something that I honestly haven't done in a few years now, and that is ranking my picks for the best movies that came out in the respective year just ended. I haven't really done a proper type of these kind of videos since 2019, because 2020 and 2021, to be perfectly honest, because of the pandemic, because of theaters being closed, and because of my ultra busy schedule as a student that I was, as a college student I was at the time those years were happening, I just didn't have as much time for seeing movies those years as I did this year in 2022. Now I'm done with school now, theaters have reopened thanks to less more lenient COVID regulations. So yeah, I'm going to be giving you my picks for the top 9 best films of 2022. 2022 was overall a very solid year for movies in my opinion. Just keep in mind two things in particular. This list is based solely off of my opinion. If you don't like any of the films on my list or in my honorable mentions, there's no need to feel attacked by this video if you dislike any of these films. It's purely my taste. Film is subjective. This is my opinion. You respect my opinion, I'll respect yours. And second of all, I haven't watched every film that's come out in 2022, and I feel like there's a lot of films that really great films that I've missed that I unfortunately didn't get a chance to see because, busy schedules and whatnot. I am determined to see more really good films that came out in 2022, especially with the Oscars being right around the corner when the nominees for that are announced. I'm gonna try to make the initiative to see more really good films or well-received films that came out in 2022. So this video it's slightly subject to change, but for the great films that I have seen in 2022, you'll see them here. And I do have some honorable mentions: Sonic the Hedgehog 2, Jurassic World Dominion, Black Phone, Smile, Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, and Pinocchio. To be Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio, that is, not that remake that we got on Disney Plus, which I refuse to watch. So yeah, those are really great films that I feel bad for not being able to put them in my list. But yeah, for the films, but there were 9 films this year that really hit me to the core, and here they are right now. Taking off my list, my number 9 choice is Jackass Forever. Keep in mind, this is my list. Jackass Forever was the first film to receive a 9 out of 10 stars on my rating scale back in February this past year, and this is before I changed my rating scale from a 0 to 10 scale to a 0 to 9 scale. Yeah, this was the first film that I saw this year that I loved. As difficult to watch as it was in a few scenes, the actors Steve-O and Johnny Knoxville and Danger Aaron, the stunts they do and the injuries they go through, the injuries on screen. Johnny Knoxville has suffered permanent brain damage now because of one scene in particular involving a bull. Oh my goodness, the actors in this movie, they were crazy. And introduced some brand new faces too, and the celebrity cameos I thought were a nice touch as well. Jackass Forever was just, I was laughing hysterically, I was cringing so hard. As a man especially, there's a lot of male genitalia in this film, and I was like, oh no, this film went there, ah! But it did, and it wanted me to laugh, and it succeeded splendidly. Number 8! So for my number 8 choice, I was kind of torn between this and the Puss in Boots. It's which DreamWorks film deserves a spot on my actual list, which deserves an honorable mention. This between this and Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. I ultimately went with The Bad Guys for my number 8 spot because this film came out back in April, and it's on Netflix now. I'm pretty sure it's still on Netflix, I believe. I've rewatched it twice, and The Bad Guys is oh my gosh, it's finally, this was the year, 2022, that DreamWorks gave us not 1 but 2 films. Then it was just yes, DreamWorks is back. It's finally a DreamWorks animated film that's not only really good, but is also not a sequel for once. The Bad Guys, yes, this is an adaptation of the children's book of the same name, but The Bad Guys, despite people, some people, criticize it for being too cliche or reliant on, genre gimmicks, that you see in a lot of, animated family comedies, but The Bad Guys proved to me that it's not what you do, it's the way that you do it. You could take, a premise that's not super original, like, bad guys gone good in a kid's movie, and still make it very unique and very thrilling. The voice cast was splendid. The animation was super wacky. It embraced the whole, like, cartoonish, unrealistic nature that animation, lets you have as an artist. And this film touched base on a lot of real world issues too, like stereotyping. And I know people have compared this movie a lot to Zootopia, as these are two, like, animated films that have come out within, like, recent memory that have tackled, like, the themes of, like, stereotyping and racism and, like, class issues, I guess. I would argue that The Bad Guys does that whole, like, message about stereotypes just a slightly better than Zootopia, considering that all the characters in Zootopia are mammals, while The Bad Guys, you have Mr. Wolf, Mr. Snake, Miss Tarantula, Mr. Shark, and Mr. Piranha. Like, only one of those is a mammal, and yet we, as humans, we have a mammalian bias, so we're less inclined to stigmatize or bash mammals for their differences as opposed to, like, fishes or, reptiles. Wolves, sharks, snakes, piranhas, and spiders get a lot of hate they don't deserve. This film really touched base on it, and as a zoology guy, I really appreciate that. And The Bad Guys, I really hope that DreamWorks keeps this, like, good streak up with this and Puss in Boots: Last Wish, and I'm really excited to see what they do next.
Number 7?
My number 7 choice is The Batman. This is, obviously, Batman films are nothing we haven't seen before, but Matt Reeves took The Batman and had Robert Pattinson as the Batman, touches base on the whole detective side of Batman, and the casting was just genius. Robert Pattinson has come such a long way since Twilight, and I love Zoe Kravitz as Catwoman. I loved Andy Serkis as Alfred. I loved Colin Farrell as the Penguin and Paul Dano as the Riddler. Like, the score was amazing, and that scene with the Batmobile, the chase on the highway scene, was one of the best action scenes I had seen in any, like, Batman film. This is not another origin story that we've seen a dozen times already, but it is a coming-of-age story for Batman and him, like, trying to find his way in the world of Gotham, and I really appreciate that.
Number 6!
My pick for the 6th best film that came out in 2022, this was a huge year for horror movies, and I just realized I forgot to get, like, I gave The Black Phone and Smile an honorable mention. I forgot to give an honorable mention to X as well, because that's a film I've mentioned in a lot of my videos this year. But I gotta say, those 3 films, they don't hold a candle to Barbarian. Barbarian is the most thrilling, scary, suspenseful, thought-provoking horror film I have seen in a very long time. It's truly unique. The premise is very simple, and I love Georgina Campbell's performance as the lead actress in this film, as well as Bill Skarsgård as Keith and Justin Long as the sleazebag that you just grow to despise throughout this film. And it makes you asking questions that, some get answered, some don't, and it touches base on a lot of real world issues like gentrification and the Me Too movement. Ultimately, my favorite horror films are character driven horror films, because I am difficult to scare with horror movies. I was keeping you real at that. I don't like it when horror movies are overly reliant on gore or, like, jump scares. And yes, this film, like, it definitely warrants its R rating. There is a lot of disturbing imagery here, but disturbing imagery and gore are not synonymous, and the directors and the writers, they understood that perfectly. And the director, I forget his name, but I believe this is his directorial debut. I'm really excited to see what he does next.
Number 5!
I still have to choose between kindness for my kin or hate for my enemies. And yes, we're moving into the top 5 right now, and my 5th spot goes to the Northmen. Before there was The Lion King, there was Hamlet, and before Hamlet, there was the legend of Amleth, the Viking legend of the prince who witnessed his uncle kill his father. Alexander Skarsgård as the titular Northman, as Amleth, was so great. He was so brutal and intense. He got so jacked for the role. And Anya Taylor-Joy as Olga, his love interest, that's my favorite Anya Taylor-Joy performance. The whole casting was just so brilliant, and it captured the essence of how Vikings acted and the history and the mythology as well. Like, I've been a huge, like, legends and myths person ever since I was a little kid, and I love how this film, like, touched base on, like, themes from Norse mythology. The score, the cinematography, the action scenes the brutality, like the sound effects, like that scene when like Amleth has his vision, like this film gets very trippy in a few scenes. That scene when Amleth has his vision of the Valkyrie taking the Valhalla, and the Valkyrie raises her sword, that score is playing, and she like screams at the sky, like it's impossible to mimic, and that's just what I imagine a Valkyrie sounding like. If I were to die in battle with like a sword or a gun in my hand, and if a Valkyrie were to take me to Valhalla, that's just what I imagine her sounding like. Oh my gosh, there's just so much I can say about this film. It's not the main reason why The Northman's not higher on my list is because it's not a film I can watch casually. I did rewatch it back in September, and I had not nightmares, but I had very strange dreams that night, just like Amleth. If you haven't seen it yet, this film bombed at the box office. That's such a shame, because Robert Eggers, he's now like one of my new favorite directors. I still haven't seen The Witch, but I did really like The Lighthouse, and I love The Northman, and I hope he does more films in the future. My number 4 choice goes to my most anticipated film that came out in 2022. It did not disappoint me in the slightest. That, my friends, is Avatar: The Way of Water. The long-awaited 13 years we've waited to go back to Pandora, and those 3 hours and 15 minutes went by so fast. Like, I honestly think the 3-hour runtime worked for this film, because I hear the main reason why the first Avatar film was 2 hours and 41 minutes and not a full 3 hours is because back in 2009, it was this huge push that James Cameron had on 3D technology. People weren't really used to, like, super long movies being in 3D, which is why a lot of scenes were cut from the first film and put in the extended version of the film, because they didn't want to, like, make people sick, I guess, with 3D technology. I really hope there's another extended version for Way of Water. I've heard a lot of people say that Avatar: Way of Water is better than the first film. I have way too much nostalgia armor placed in the first Avatar. That's one of my favorite films of all time. But, like, this Way of Water it's very unique and stands out from, like, other films that James Cameron's made. You see Jake and Neytiri, like, they're just completely different characters this film they were in the last film, and Quaritch is back and badder and bigger and bluer than ever. God, I love Stephen Lang. The action scenes, the visuals, the motion capture that they did for the underwater scenes. Oh my gosh, I generally forgot that it was CGI at a few scenes. It looked so real. The coral reefs, the ocean, the sea creatures, the Tulkins, the fight scenes. Oh man, Avatar: Way of Water, I'm counting on days till it's available on 3D, as is the case with my top 3 choices as well. I just remembered that I've already seen, like, 2 out of these, like, top 3 movies already on 3D available in stores. Hell, I work at a grocery store, and I've seen these movies on the DVD rack, so I don't have any excuse not to own these movies on DVD. But anyway, that's off topic. My number 3 choice goes to Top Gun Maverick. I still have not watched the first Top Gun, and I'm really kicking myself for that, because Maverick definitely made me want to do so. I love, legacy sequels, like, they're written in a way where, like, they don't disregard the events of the first film, but you don't need to watch the first one to know what's going on. And the stunt work, the planes, the action scenes in Top Gun Maverick, like, Tom Cruise and Miles Teller worked so well together. Like, this is Maverick's movie. It centers around Tom Cruise as Maverick, as his fighter pilot, but the rest of the cast worked. They bounced off each other. Their energy's so good, and that last, like, hour of the movie was just a non-stop, like, thrill ride, and I was on the edge of my seat. I was definitely late for that party back in August. I saw this movie back in August. I believe it came out back in June or July, but I initially skipped it, and I'm really happy I chose not to skip it, because Top Gun Maverick it was such an experience. And it's like, movies like Top Gun Maverick are the reason why we go to theater. We go to escape. We go to be thrilled and entertained and awe-inspired by, like, action scenes and stunt work and good visuals and sound effects and whatnot. But also, we see a piece of ourselves in those movies, and Top Gun Maverick wasn't just, like, a brainless, like, action movie that had no depth to it. There was a lot going on with the dialogue and the characters and the writing that really made it work for me, and I'm so happy that it succeeded. It's gotten as much praise as it did, and I could see it being a Best Picture nominee. I hope it does, at least.
Number 2! Okay.
I feel like some people are gonna be, like, really mad at me for putting this film in particular very high on my list. It just sung to me. As a fan of sci-fi movies, as a fan of action movies, as a fan of horror, and as a fan of history, especially Native American history and their culture and, you know, the way they lived and their beliefs and how they intertwine that with a beloved, long-loving franchise that has albeit had quite a few missteps over years, but this film redeemed it, and that is Prey. The actress who plays Naru in this film, Amber Midthunder, she's been cast to play Princess Yue in the upcoming live-action Airbender series. Not really looking forward to that, but I am looking forward for her and her career growing from here. This movie was like, it was literally the Predator. It was like the Predator meets the Revenant. It was like the cinematography. It's such a shame this film never got a theatrical release, because this film was like the cinematography and the way it was shot and the way it was edited was just so grandiose. And I felt like I was there. I felt like I was in the 17 or 1800s with Naru trying to like defend herself and her people from the Predator, and how she has to deal with, like, you know, the wildlife and French fur trappers. And again, I haven't watched the first Predator. I haven't seen any other Predator sequels, but Prey really made me want to do so. And there's just so much, like, I feel like Prey is like one of those movies where the more I thought about it, the better it gets. And it's an experience, like, on a streaming service I've never had before. I saw this film back in May. It got released back in April. It's not a film I had the chance to, like, properly review. I just mentioned back in my video when I ranked all the films I saw between January through April, you know, like my top, you know, 2022 like films from worst to best video. I put this on the top of that list, and it's remained that spot, and that is Everything Everywhere All at Once. This, like, unique is a word I've been using a lot in this video, and Everything Everywhere All at Once is one of the most unique films I have seen in a very long time. It beautifully balances out science fiction, action, comedy, drama, and romance all in one big package. And it's just amazing how this relatively smaller budget film compared to like most superhero films deals with the whole multiverse concept, in my opinion, a lot better than Marvel is nowadays. And like Michelle Yeoh as the lead character who plays this Chinese immigrant mother, she and her daughter, there's a lot of themes that this film touches base on, like family and LGBTQ plus rights, and just like, you know, stereotypes and, you know, prejudices, and just like imagination, and like what is like reality, what is truth, like what's important to you. Like there's just so much that this film touches base on, but it never feels too cluttered or unfocused or trying to be too much at once. And I haven't laughed as hard in a theater in a very, like, this and like Jackass Forever were like the two films that made me like bust my gut in the theater. And if you saw like Everything Everywhere All at Once in theaters, I hope you saw it in a crowded theater, because everyone in the crowd, myself included, was laughing hysterically at multiple scenes and was on the edge of my seat multiple scenes, because the action scenes, the choreography was amazing. And yeah, I could sing praises for Everything Everywhere All at Once all day. It's such a weird movie, but weird is wonderful. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Did you agree with my picks? What's your favorite movie of 2022? Or you can give me your own list in the comments. Give me your top 3, your top 5, your top 10, top 20. Go ahead, let me know in the comments down below. Subscribe to my channel, please, and like this video, and follow me on Instagram. Links in the description. Thank you guys so much for watching this video, and yeah, stay tuned for 6 more like top 5 and top 9 videos coming your way soon. My name is TV9. Stay beastly.